Hello, podcast listeners. This is your host with the most. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this December 2023 holiday watch calendar I've put together. Tucker and I are going to talk about all these great movies that you can watch to celebrate the Christmas season. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Would you give me some levels?
Testing 1, 2, 3. I ate some Applebee's.
Lovely.
Applebee's, that's the Applebee's. And then 19th Avenue, that's Dadbee's. And then the other, is there still a Bee's out
On
in West
45th,
Fargo?
yeah.
I think that's Satellite Bee's.
Satellite Bees.
I don't know, it's not Applebee's.
If
There's
I
only
were
one Applebee's.
If I were to take my mistress to an Applebee's, it would be the one on 45th Street, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to have a business meeting or to watch sports,
Yeah.
it would be the 19th Avenue North one.
Yep, Dadbee's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Classic Bees is where I'd go if I was like, boy, haven't seen my homies in a while. I need to get back together.
Classic Bees, also known as Applebee's, because it's the only one.
Right. And that was the first one. You know, that restaurant, when you think about it, I bet you it's 30 years old at this point.
I was thinking about how long you and I have been going there to eat boneless wings.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just out of high school. I mean, you were already doing it in high school, I think. And then I started joining your little clique.
So technically, no. Like
Okay.
I had been to Applebee's as a restaurant, but I didn't go on a frequency until after I graduated from high school. And then it became the place that, like, for $2.50,
Yeah.
you could have like you split an appetizer and you could get a soda and you could wait there for hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Broke kids out of
Yeah.
high school. It's a great date spot.
Tucker, I've handed you a piece of paper, and it's something I've worked on really hard. I made this.
Whoa.
It is what I call the holiday watch calendar.
So this, oh, wow. Okay. I have so many things already to say, but you keep going.
So what I've done here is I have chosen a different theme for each day of the week, and I have put together suggestions for what people should watch over the holiday season. Now, before everyone freaks out, I did not include every single Christmas movie that is known to man. So I'm really sorry if you love the Albert Finney A Christmas Carol. That didn't make it onto this list, but I would like to talk about some of the things I put on here, and maybe you could give me your opinion on some things that you enjoy. So we're actually recording this before it comes out on December 4th. So I'm going to talk about the days leading up that we didn't get to.
Right.
And I'm also going to talk about the themes. So Mondays are TV specials.
Yes, I can see that now. Yep.
They're particular television specials, which include series television, special made for TV movies. On Tuesday, we've got Christmas classics. Now, these are the things that are staples of the holiday season, and you got to watch them no matter what. You know, that they just kind of represent. So maybe you've seen clips from these movies, but you might not have actually sat down and watched them. Wednesday is what I call Christmas adjacent, which are movies that have Christmas at the core, but it's not necessarily a plot point to them, right?
It's more of the setting versus the story.
Thursday is Christmas newbies. So these are more recent releases that maybe haven't gotten the attention, haven't really hit the classic circuit yet, but are worth your attention. Friday, Christmas comedy, because Christmas and comedy go hand in hand.
Love that.
Saturday, family favorites. Now, just because it's for a family doesn't mean that you can't watch it if you're all by yourself sitting in your underpants eating turkey. You can do that. And then Sunday is double feature holiday films. So they're movies that go hand in hand, and most of them are parts of franchises. But on the 24th, I have two movies that I think just are, maybe the quintessential Christmas movies to watch on Christmas Eve. And then I don't give any suggestion for what to watch on the 25th because that day is yours. You can watch and do whatever you want.
It's a free day.
However you celebrate your God. So let's start with Friday, Saturday, Sunday that we've already missed by the time this podcast comes out.
Yeah.
Friday, Ernest Saves Christmas.
I'd like to pause you real quick. If I
sure,
could.
yeah.
And I want to call out the fact that in this document, you've definitely done your work where you already know where you're going to go watch it.
Right. An important aspect of this is the movie itself has to be available as part of the package for a major streaming service. So, for example, Die Hard, I love that movie, but right now Die Hard is not on a regular streaming service.
Got it.
Because I think they're like, here's our holiday cash grab. We'll only make it available for rent and we'll make $4.99 rather than just a single price.
There are a number of these movies I know you have access to on VHS.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So I would hope that at least one point in this, you might grace yourself with the VHS viewing.
You know what's interesting? So Rankin Bass,
Mm-hmm.
the stop motion claymation sort of, but they're technically not claymation because it's a puppet
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah,
But
Puppetmation
it's
over
not a
there.
hand in it. It's like,
It's stop motion
it's
animation.
articulating.
Stop
yeah.
motion.
Almost all of those, except for the Little Drummer Boy, are all behind paywalls and aren't available on streaming services. But I have them all on VHS.
yeah.
and they were made for that old school. Like you watch it on a widescreen TV and it looks weird and like pulled. This is in that 4:3 type of look, and so yeah, I will be watching those on VHS.
Because I'm going through here and making my own notes on which of these days would I observe? Which of these days would I celebrate?
Sure, yeah,
So okay, go back to Friday the 1st. Ernest Saves
Christmas. It is a perfect Christmas movie. And it does something that a lot of Christmas movies struggle with, which is the non-snowy Christmas. This film set in Florida. It is tough, I think, to get the real Christmas feel when you're seeing green grass and palm trees and things like that. No jackets. No one's wearing a coat. But I think Ernest Saves Christmas does a wonderful job. Ernest P. Worrell, one of the sweetest, humblest, most like endearing characters to ever hit the silver screen. He does a great job because he believes in Santa Claus. As an adult male, he believes in Santa Claus, and they do a wonderful job. Ernest Saves Christmas is a favorite. The last couple of years, it's been hard to find it. I am so excited Disney Plus has it available.
You're starting strong. You're doing what a film festival tries to do.
Bingo, right? Opening night.
Opening night is big.
This also, if you've never seen it, it's a pretty simple premise. Ernest drives a cab, and he picks up the Santa Claus at the airport. And Santa is in Florida because Santa's magic fades every year. And it's time for him to turn over the magic to a new Santa who can take over for Christmas.
So you're saying that the Santa Claus stole the plot for the Santa Claus from Ernest Saves Christmas?
No, because technically in the Santa Claus, that other Santa could have remained the Santa forever, but he died. He had to pass. I think the Santa lore is amazing because you have to pass on that gift.
Got it.
Whether you die or whether the magic goes. And it involves an amazing, flight sequence at the end when a couple of elves show up and they have the reindeer and the sleigh, and Ernest has to drive the sleigh so they can get to the new Santa Claus. It's a phenomenal movie. It's so good. It's also one of the first times I ever experienced a pun as a kid because the main character, the Santa Claus to be, is he runs a children's television program, but his agent wants to get him into the movies. And his agent it wears a blazer, but like rolls up the sleeves to his elbows, like in his blazer. And he gets him a shot to be in a big Hollywood production movie called Santa's Sleigh, but it's not S-L-A-Y, it's S-L, or not S-L-E-A-I-G-H, it's S-L-A-Y.
That's not how you spell sleigh.
S-L-E-I-G-H, sleigh. It's Santa's sleigh, like you're slaying like a beast. You slay the beast.
I know. Something about listening to you misspell sleigh 3 times
Over
in a
and
row
over and
is
over.
pretty great.
It's his Santa's shillelagh. On Saturday, our first of the family favorites, I have Miracle on 34th Street, specifically the 1994 Richard Attenborough version.
Then one of my first questions for you then is how many versions of Miracle are there?
There's 2 main versions, right? So 2 major theatrically released versions, one from 1947, black and white, and then this one from 1994. I actually am of the opinion that you could remake this movie every 10 years.
Oh.
And you could easily get away with that. And you could tell a different story. You know, the 1947 version is an era where shopping, like you got dressed up to go to Macy's department store. And the 1994 version is the Kohl's department store versus the big, you know, like giant chain that's across the street.
You think about that first one was just at the tail end of World War II.
Right? Exactly, right? The thing I like about Miracle on 34th Street is these movies start on Thanksgiving and follows you through the whole month of December. So I really like the fact that that's why it's early on. So that, you know, like something like A Christmas Carol is meant really technically only for Christmas Eve.
Yeah, what they really need to do is, you know, every 10 years recreate it. And then like after like 5 decades of that, you have the Miracle on 34th Street multiverse where then they start to cross over with each
that's
other.
a great idea.
And the different Santas start to meet the different Santas.
Oh.
There's a giant war of some kind.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like, in fact, you should have the villain from the first one figures out a way to travel interdimensionally.
And all the Santas need to combine their magic.
Oh, I like that. Miracle on 34th Street, specifically the 1994 version, makes me cry every time with just joy in a scene where Richard Attenborough is like, come here, and a little girl is plopped on his lap. And they also make a point in the 1994 version to make it kind of look like it's the 40s, like in the way that everyone dresses and stuff like that.
There was a lot of nostalgia
There was.
in the 90s like that.
And they plop a little girl on her on his lap, and she's smiling, and he goes, "Hello, darling. Like, what's your name?" And the mom leans in, and she goes, She can't hear you. She's deaf, but she just wanted to meet you. You don't have to say anything." And he looks at the mom and he looks at the little girl and he starts to sign and he asks her what her name is. And she lights up when when she says like Sammy, he goes, "Sammy, that's a very beautiful name." And he goes, "Do you know the song Jingle Bells?" And they sign and sing Jingle Bells together. And it reminds me of this every time. How incredibly jaded am I to not realize that people's experiences with something as simple as Santa Claus might be hard. Like how completely egocentric that I never think of anybody else at that same time. And in the 1947 version, it's he speaks Portuguese. Like there's a kid who's plopped on his lap and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't speak English, don't worry." And he ends up speaking Portuguese. And it's a really fine moment. It's great. And one of my favorite, Dylan McDermott plays the love interest for Elizabeth Perkins in this. And at one point he goes to visit Santa after Santa has been kind of goaded into assaulting a guy on the street, like hitting him with a cane, like the top of his cane, after accusing him of being a pedophile.
Oh, wow.
And like he's like, "You like it when, they're on your lap, that how you get your kicks?" And he turns around and he has like, it's like, it gets dark fast.
Holy shit. I didn't know that was
right. And he turns around and like essentially like pops this guy on the top of the head with his cane, and there's a photographer there. I mean, it's a big setup, but they don't take him to a jail. They take him to like a mental institution where he's, put into, like a solitary confined room. And so he's in there and he's talking to Dylan McDermott. But as Dylan McDermott's being led to his room, there's this kind of chubby orderly, and he goes, "You know what, sir? I don't care. If this guy wants to pretend he's Santa Claus, don't matter to me." And it's Horatio Sands. And I remember when Dylan McDermott hosted SNL years later, like during his monologue, Horatio comes and goes, "Remember when we were in a movie together?" And he goes, I don't. And he goes, "Oh, play the clip." And so they show the clip and he goes, "That was you?" And Horatio Sands is super offended. It's like, "We said we were going to keep in touch." It's a great one. And that's on Hulu. So on Sunday the 3rd, yesterday, there was my first holiday film double feature, which is The Santa Claus and The Santa Claus 2.
What is the gap in time between the two movies?
It's supposed to be maybe a matter of, I think it's 5 years.
Okay, so not a ton of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So his son now is late middle school, maybe even like a freshman in high school.
It's kind of angsty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Judge Reinhold and Scott Calvin's ex-wife have a daughter now. Have a precocious young daughter, redhead. The Santa Claus, I think, is perfect. And it's the depiction of the North Pole that I like the most.
I was obsessed with the Elf Liberation Front.
Oh yeah, the ELFs.
The ELFs. I really thought like, okay, that's amazing. And
That's a job opportunity that you can have.
This was when I was still blissfully in the Santa Claus exists realm of my life.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. They have jetpacks. No one ever told me they had jetpacks. And I took that as part of the mythos.
We never used tinsel at my house, and I always wanted tinsel after seeing this movie and being like, tinsel, it's not just for decoration. Do you want to know why I love the Santa Claus 2? It's because it's not great.
It's because they say your name in it.
They do. At one point, Tim Allen is at a Christmas party, and to liven it up, he uses some Santa magic to get toys that all these adults wanted when they were a little kid. And one of them was like, we got he goes, John Jameson. He's like, didn't your mom call you JJ? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, and he says, Merry Christmas, JJ, and hands him a present. And that JJ gets toss across, which was a beanbag game where you had these triangles. Each slot was a triangle with an X, an O, or a blank. And you would throw a beanbag and try and get it to like turn to the letter that you want, to your X or your O. It's a great game. Toss across is a great game because if you give it too much oomph, you could set someone else up for the win.
Sure. It's real strategy.
So I like both those. Okay, Monday. Let's talk about the day of this release because hit it hard.
Yeah, because I'm going back here again and I'm seeing again. You just said television for Monday, right?
It's specials.
Specials.
Specific TV specials.
Because looking at what you've listed, I had to go, oh damn. How do these fit?
Yes. Okay. So, and I actually have this blogged at kfgo.com. You can also find it on my Facebook page. We'll share it as well on the JJ Meets World Facebook page because I actually include like specific clips from these that I'm talking about. I combo together the X-Files and The Office. The X-Files, you are looking for season 6. Hold on, I got to make sure I get. I'm pretty sure
Mulder
season
still
6,
in the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, this is what I consider to be maybe one of the finest examples of why the X-Files gets overlooked sometimes because there are episodes that have of that show that have absolutely nothing to do with aliens. People think it's just aliens all the time, but this one happens to be about ghosts. Okay. So Mulder and Scully on Christmas have to go to this haunted house to find out if they're ghosts or not. And there are 2 ghosts. It's Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin as this like old couple. It is delightful, Tucker. In fact, the name of the episode is season 6, episode 6 of the X-Files, How the Ghosts Stole Christmas.
Wow. I would have loved to have seen an episode where you find out that Mulder believes in Santa Claus. And Scully's like, come on, Fox.
Right.
And then they have to go, and then she has to warm up and like learn about the spirit of Christmas.
Does Santa really exist? Like one of those things.
The science just isn't there.
It just doesn't exist. Also, The Office, the U.S. version Christmas Party. It's season 2, episode 10, and it is
the American Office
of the American Office. Yeah. So I chose that one specifically because Michael buys an iPod for their Secret Santa Yankee swap. And he doesn't really understand how the game works and he wants to impress everybody, but he gets mad because someone gives him an oven mitt and he spent like $400 and like someone else was like, well, you're only supposed to spend $5. So it's really great. Okay, so moving forward now, Tuesday, White Christmas. It's on Netflix. I mean, there's not much you can say. White Christmas. I believe White Christmas is the best-selling song of all time. It's purchased the most. It's played the most. Yeah, White Christmas by Bing Crosby.
Not just specifically Christmas song, but song.
Song, yeah.
Wow.
It just, I mean, because every year people buy, copies of it, right? Like they download it for whatever reason and they bought records and tapes and CDs and so on and so forth. Number 6, my first Christmas adjacent is Batman Returns on Max.
Solid choice.
And you can watch it and not take in any Christmas moments from it at all and like be fine. Or you can really realize that almost all of this revolves around Christmas as a plot point.
Isn't it weird how much synergy there is between Batman and Christmas?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, there's the whole Jingle Bells, Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg aspect of it. But then, yeah, I mean, Tim Burton proved that Batman and Christmas belong together.
One of the Batman animated series episodes that I love the most is the one where the Joker, like Batman, like Bruce is trying to get Dick Grayson to watch It's a Wonderful Life, and he's never seen it. He's like, I can't believe you've never seen this. And then the Joker kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and Barbara, and they have to go and save them on Christmas. And the Joker's wearing like this obnoxious Christmas sweater. It's one of the best episodes of that show, bar none. So that's on there. Number 7, Christmas Newbies, Hannah Waddingham, Home for Christmas. You haven't watched any Ted Lasso yet, have you?
I have not.
Okay. She's a major part of Ted Lasso. You watched Game of Thrones though, right?
Oh, so this is the actor's name, and this is
This is a TV special that she just made.
This totally read to me like a Lifetime channel.
Right.
That's what I thought this was. No, I get it now. Okay.
So you watch Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Remember the woman who walks behind Cersei and goes, "Shame."
Yep.
Shame. That's Hannah Waddingham.
No shit.
Yeah, that's Hannah Waddingham.
No shit.
And she's an amazing singer, and the team behind Ted Lasso wrote this Christmas special where it's live on stage. It is out of this world good. It's so much fun. It's the type of thing that you could have on in the background and you could start over again once you've watched it once. She clearly is someone who loves the holiday so much herself that it makes everything seem better.
Oh, wow.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Isn't she gorgeous too?
She's gorgeous, and you wouldn't know it by watching Game of Thrones.
No, well, because she's in that nun outfit.
They make her
the whole
so
time.
harsh. Okay.
Yeah, shame.
Shame.
On number 8, okay, so we're back to Christmas comedies. Mixed. Oh, by the way, Hannah Waddingham, Home for Christmas is on Apple TV Plus.
That's kind of just. Do we really need the plus? At
We
that
don't.
point?
Just Apple TV. You're
Do we
good to
even
go.
could we just say it's on Apple?
I guess, yeah.
It's on Apple.
It's on Apple. One of the Apples has it. Number 8 is Mixed Nuts. It's on Peacock. I try every year to get people to watch this movie. It is, I think it's like 1995. It's from a long time ago, but get this cast. Steve Martin, Liev Schreiber, Adam Sandler, Madeline Kahn, Rita Wilson, Jon Stewart.
Whoa.
Right? Parker Posey, Juliette Lewis.
What year did this come out?
Like 1995.
Wow.
It is. It's a group of people who work at like a suicide helpline.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
And it's about them like having to come to grips with the fact that they're closing. Again, it's another Christmas Without Snow movie because it's set on Venice Beach.
Got it.
It is without a doubt, I think, one of the funniest Christmas movies because Christmas plays a main character, but it could have been set at Easter. It could have been set at any other time out of the year, and it would have been just as funny. So with a cast like that, you can't think that this is not just a perfect holiday comedy. And it never really found traction, but every year it's a must-watch for me. It's a great movie. I really like Mixed Nuts.
And how funny is it?
I consider it very funny, especially because with someone like Madeline Kahn, I mean, someone who has made iconic roles in Mel Brooks movies, she plays the cranky old woman. It's so good. I'm telling you, Gary Shandling plays the landlord in this movie.
But it's heartwarming, I would assume.
At points.
It feels like it would have to be.
It also, I think, is light years ahead of itself. And I don't want to tell you why because you'd ruin one of the best gags in the whole movie.
Okay.
But it's very, very good. I like it. On Saturday the 9th, another family favorite, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Mm-hmm. It is on Amazon Prime.
You do have this one on VHS.
I do. I have several copies, actually, from different releases. 1977, Jim Henson adapts Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which is a kind of takes the gift of the Magi idea, and Emmett and his mom both want to buy each other Christmas gifts. But to do that, they have to each win a talent contest. And for her, she has to hawk Emmett's tools so she can get fabric for a dress.
It sounds like multiple Christmas movie plots in one.
I mean, in all honesty,
genres of Christmas movies.
The gift of the Magi is, I think, one of the most iconic Christmas stories, right? Like the idea that, the man sold his watch to get a comb for his wife, and his wife sold her hair to get a new tuner for his watch, right? Look at that. We should have just
They both fucked up. They should have communicated.
On the 10th, Sunday the 10th, let's talk about another holiday double feature. A Christmas Story and A Christmas Story Christmas.
So I remember the first time I watched A Christmas Story, we rented it from Videoland.
Oh, yeah?
And my mom could not stop talking up this movie. She was like, I think this is one of the funniest movies. It reminds me of my childhood and all this stuff. And I was a kid. I went, okay, this movie terrified me.
Oh, really?
Terrified me. The bully who gets the broken nose, the kid getting his tongue stuck to the pole, the Santa.
I don't know how they did that, by the way.
Right.
I just rewatched that scene, the tongue sticking to the pole. I think they actually may have made that kid stick his tongue to a pole.
I think they used a prosthetic tongue.
I don't know.
I think they did.
You got to go back and look at it. Also,
oh, I've seen it.
This movie was made on the cheap. You know, they didn't think that this movie was going to be very successful, so it was made as cheaply as possible.
Yeah. Having done that myself, I don't think they had a kid actually do that.
You know what I think the thing about this movie is that like the scene that always just makes me go like, come on, is when the mom to get the youngest son to eat is like, are you a little piggy? Are you a little piggy? And he goes, and then he shoves his whole face in it. And he's like, and the kid's laughing his butt off.
I think that movie is dark. It's dark. You know, you'll poke your eye out. Like all adults are terrifying in it.
Santa Claus, ho ho.
Yeah. Dad is this lecherous old like.
Why is he lecherous?
Why do we think he's lecherous? Because
he likes the leg lamp.
He worships the leg lamp.
But here's the thing: he liked it because they talk about this early in the movie that he was constantly trying to win prizes. So like he was constantly like trying to win sweepstakes. This is the first thing he's ever won.
Right.
And so I don't think it's that he sent away for this leg lamp. It's that he won this, and it was fragile. You know, must be Italian for something. The sequel that they made for it that came out last year is one of the best done sequels I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
And this is why. This movie, iconic. They show it for 24 hours on like TBS every Thanksgiving and then maybe on Christmas. When they decide to make a sequel to it, there's a lot riding on it because, you know, you're like, okay, are you going to recast all the kids? What they did for A Christmas Story Christmas is it's adult Ralphie, still played by what's-his-face, who's also in the Marvel movies. Peter Billingsley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. No. Maybe.
Yeah. Peter Billingsley? Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, Billingsley.
Keanu Reeves.
So it's him and his friends are played by the same people who played them as little kids. Even the bully Farkas is played by the adult, like the actual grown adult, because it's been 30 plus years, almost 40 years since that movie first came out. And the premise of this film is Ralphie now lives in Cleveland proper, with his wife and their 2 kids, and he's a struggling writer, which Gene Shepard, the guy who wrote A Christmas Story, was a writer, and so like he narrates the first A Christmas Story. Mm-hmm. So it's him narrating his own story, and then it goes into this. But his dad has died that last year. The old man has finally kicked the bucket, and so his mom asked, "Could we have Christmas at the old house on Cleveland Street?" And so
she still lives there.
She still lives there. And so it's her first Christmas alone. Yep. And so Ralphie packs up the kids and his wife, and they go to have Christmas at the old house. And it's an homage to this, like the handing down from one generation to another of like, I never really realized how hard it is to make this look easy. Right? Like all the things his dad did because his dad loved Christmas. And you really see that in A Christmas Story. When he's watching his son open like the BB gun and he's like, tear it on the side, tear it on. It's like a great little moment. And so it's Ralphie trying to make ends meet and they are struggling financially. It is so good and it's so funny. And I watched this all by myself last year and then I watched it again the next day.
Wow.
And like, I'm not a Christmas Story fanatic. I've probably seen it 5-6 times in my life. But I've seen enough clips of it to make me, be like, I've seen it all a million times.
I still think of the anxiety I got the first time I watched it as a kid, being like, this kid's life is horrifying. But I think I was his age.
I want to watch you watch that movie.
I was the age of that kid when I watched that movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's probably why. That. So, I mean, that movie was aimed at our parents who would have been thinking of their
feelings
childhood.
of nostalgia from that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, I don't know if like stores like Higbee's was real. But it certainly made it look like it was a lot of fun when you go back and watch it. And I'm watching through A Christmas Story Christmas, A Christmas Story, the first one, so that I can have a viewing this year of A Christmas Story Christmas. And it'll be fresh in my mind. So let's go to the next TV specials.
We're on
okay?
Monday the 11th.
On Monday, the 11th of December.
2023.
So I am a big fan of Christmas television series that set a standard going forward. And there's nothing better than the episode of Seinfeld called The Strike, which involves Festivus. This is season 9, episode 10. It's available on Netflix. And it's a pretty perfect episode for a Christmas episode because it's not about Christmas, it's about Festivus.
That's probably in most critics' top 5 list of best Seinfeld episodes of all time.
Agreed.
Too. Yeah.
And like Jerry Stiller is just
A god.
let that dude do whatever he needs.
God,
right?
He was perfect.
So good. The Festivus let's all go. It's the airing of grievances.
He was someone who did not have to try to be funny.
Right.
He was automatically funny in anything he did.
Have you ever seen the bloopers where Julia Louis-Dreyfus can't get through the like, you want a piece of me? And she just can't keep a straight face. He's a genius. And then I put that one together with Community, Regional Holiday Music, Season 3, Episode 10, where the cast of Community gets pulled into being part of the Glee Club because the previous Glee Club had been arrested after they had been ASCAP had gotten a hold of them for copyright infringement. And they keep talking about an episode no one's ever seen before. Like last year when you stepped in for Glee Club after they were in that horrible bus accident. Like it was great. And it's a parody of Glee, which had been off the air at this point for like 5 years already. But they've got great songs in it. Like it's a ton of fun. And they play to the... they played like the stereotype of each of these characters, and Jill and I have differing ideas of like what the best song is in this. And recently we watched it and we're like, nope, it's Allison Bree's I'm a Silly Christmas Baby. That is so good. And Joel McHale's reaction, it's every part of that episode is great. Both of those are available on Netflix. 12th, the Tuesday the 12th, another Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. I actually have a theory about It's a Wonderful Life that most people actually haven't sat and watched this movie the whole way through, but they've seen enough clips and they know enough about it that they're like, yep, I know exactly what's going on.
I have a memory of It's a Wonderful Life the first time I watched that movie.
Really?
It was my dad's first house after the divorce. And so he was living in, or when we were with him, we were living in this split level home that was turned into apartments near Oak Grove. And I remember he had a couch and a bed and a TV. That's what he had, right? And we all shared the bed and couch and everything, right? And at Brand and I, we thought this was awesome. It was like we're camping. But I remember just sitting in this like barren apartment with a TV on a stand watching It's a Wonderful Life for the first time, like one Christmas. And yeah, as a young kid actually sitting through it and watching it on TV.
It's also got a piece that like as a filmmaker you have to appreciate, which is they needed to show a way that like the angel could talk to this like supreme being, but you couldn't do it with a bunch of effects, and they didn't want to do it so they just show a picture of the night sky, and one star like blinks as it's talking and another star blinks back, and it's so simplistic, but it's easy.
Yeah.
Right when you finish watching It's a Wonderful Life, you need to go on to YouTube and watch the lost ending to It's a Wonderful Life that SNL did years ago, where they're like, there's a lost ending which actually shows exactly what happened, and Dana Carvey plays our main character and does such an amazing Jimmy Stewart impression. It's just wonderful. And then John Lovitz plays Old Man Potter, and and then they end up beating the crap. They're like, he's not even a cripple. And like, it is out of this world good. It is so funny.
The every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings has to be one of the most parodied scenes.
Yeah.
Out there, like in popular culture.
Oh, without a doubt.
I would assume it is.
And I actually have another theory that this movie, the ownership of this movie kind of bounced around, because when it first came out, it wasn't a huge hit, but people associated it so much with Christmas time, and it became the first like, I've got to watch it every year Christmas movie, that for a long time Christmas movies used this to kind of solidify their place. So, for example, in Gremlins, the mom is watching this while she's like making dinner. In National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, this is what's playing while the two father-in-laws are all snoring, you know. And so I think they use this clip in like Merry Christmas movie house.
Yep, and it's just been on TV every single year, just like Charlie Brown Christmas is on TV every single year.
Moving on to Wednesday, a or Christmas adjacent, Edward Scissorhands. Tim Burton and Christmas really go hand in hand. Do you take Batman Returns, this? I feel like there's a bunch of other movies where he's got
Nightmare Before Christmas. Even though he's not the director, but still, very, very much.
He's a dude who understands how like his aesthetic against a Christmas backdrop really is wonderful.
Yep, the white of the snow, the black of the night sky, the red of Santa's jacket and blood.
Yeah, they all fit. They all fit.
They
together.
all kind of fit together.
On Thursday the 14th, I'm suggesting a new movie that I love. It's from only a couple years ago. It's called 8-Bit Christmas. And it's the story, Neil Patrick Harris is telling his daughter the story of when he was younger, all he wanted for Christmas was a Nintendo Entertainment System. And the lengths that kids in his neighborhood would go by to get their hands on one of these Nintendos and how much they would beg and how many Christmas wreaths they would sell. It is so good. It also it harkens back to that era of when like people thought video games were the devil, and so there's a lot of weird like nostalgia built into that one in particular.
What was your first game system?
It was the Nintendo. Yeah.
Okay, me too. And I just remember getting a used copy of it and being in love with it. It was awesome.
I'm pretty sure my mom played Nintendo during the day to get better at it, so that when we'd come home, she'd be like, "Oh, should we play Super Mario Brothers? See how we can do." That one's really good, and it's on Max. It's a ton of fun. Steve Zahn is in it, and he plays a great dad in this one. On the 15th, that Friday, on Amazon Prime, Scrooged. It's the telling of a Christmas Carol, but even though it's dated in a lot of ways, like with VCRs and cable television, it is still pure and good, and there are moments in that really make it sing in 2023. For instance, the guy Buster Poindexter, who plays the cab driver that goes to Christmas Past, and when he's explaining that like all men, like he goes, but when they see their mother, Niagara Falls, Frankie. And just the way everyone cries. I love Scrooged, and it's still like it's terrifying in so many ways.
Especially when you're looking at your own mortality.
Right.
I think any story that's dealing with your mortality has to get dark at some point.
What's the first thing you think of when you think of Scrooged?
The Ghost of Christmas Future. Oh, no, this particular Scrooged?
Yeah.
The nipples line.
Yeah, right.
Because that's a young boy being like, whoa, what am I seeing?
You can hardly see them nipples. And he's looking really close. On the 16th, any of the versions of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Peacock has got both animated versions, the old school one from the 70s and the new one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Can I try to guess your top three order?
If you can, I will give you a kiss on the mouth.
Okay. I think your number 3 is the Chuck Jones one.
Okay.
The old animated one.
Right.
I think your number 2 is the Jim Carrey one.
The live action one, directed by Ron Howard.
And you've always talked about how no movie is better for Christmas than the Benedict Cumberbatch. And it's always been weird to hear you say that because I always thought you were more of a Chuck Jones guy, but I also respect your movie taste a lot.
You've got it absolutely wrong. In fact, you got to invert and you got to put the Chuck Jones at the top. I can't believe you don't know me well enough at this point.
Actually, if I need to invert it, I didn't get it all wrong. I got 2/3 of it wrong.
Do you know it's really about a man who's got congenital heart failure? That's really the basis of the Grinch, is because his heart was 2 sizes too small. And then it grows 3 sizes that day, which usually means that you're carrying water on your heart.
He's got gangrene as well.
Bingo, right?
He lives with his dog that he thinks is a reindeer.
One of the things I love about the Jim Carrey version is how they give him an origin story. Like, I got a kick out of that. I don't know what it is.
That was Ron Howard, right?
Yeah. Because his brother's in it.
There's a lot of Dutch angles in that. I remember, like Ron Howard was going through a Michael Bay phase for some reason, and a lot of Dutch angles. That came before the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat.
Oh yeah,
right.
This was the first live action adaptation of a Dr. Seuss movie, And then we got The Cat in the Hat, and then they're like, we're not going to do any more. But we are going to do animated ones. So Chris Melodondri, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. On the 17th, a week before Christmas Eve, I've got another back-to-back double feature, Home Alone and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
I was obsessed with him defending the house in the first movie, that I would try to draw out battle plans. Like, I was obsessed with that shot of him laying out the battle plans on the table. I thought that was so cool that he would come up with that and that each thing worked perfectly. And so I tried to start setting traps around the house, but it was really just leaving shit in the way. And my parents would be like, dude, you got to clean this up.
So I just watched Home Alone and Home Alone 2 back to back. There's no mention whatsoever that he told his parents about the bandits coming to their house. And seemingly he had already cleaned everything up by the next morning. But you know what you don't clean up? That, like, the tar on those basement steps, they're ruined forever.
True. You'd think that would have made the news and Child Protective Services would have had a call to the house.
Bingo.
You know, I remember reading somewhere that it's never, do we ever know what his dad does for a living?
No. Actually, there's some people have gone and
There's
said,
a theory, right?
They're like, he's actually like he's embezzling from his company and stuff like that. And this is sort of like the world, like, karma getting him by having his son be left at home all the time. I love the theory that John Candy is actually the devil.
Yeah.
And that he pops up at the exact right moment and then makes Catherine O'Hara. Watching her try and stifle laughter while he's talking about, she's like, well, have you ever left him home alone? He goes, no. I did leave him one at a funeral home once. He goes, we were there and, we were all distraught. And we weren't really thinking right. And we got home and a couple hours later we realized, like, oh, he wasn't there. And so we went back there and he'd been alone with the corpse all day long. And he's like, he's like, is he okay? Yeah. After a couple weeks he started talking again. And watching her try and keep her face, she also does. There's also a great moment where he's playing the clarinet and he's trying to get her to play the clarinet too, and he goes, "Try it." And she goes, and she politely goes, "No," and he goes, "Try it." And he tries again, and then the third time, she just, like, her face just falls and she shoves the, like, clarinet back at him. It is a master class in acting from both of those two comedic geniuses.
Well, you can tell how comfortable they are with each other at that point. They spend so much time working together that it was a second language between them.
On the 18th, we have another holiday special.
This is one of my favorites on your list. This is one of those ones that it's been. I don't think I've watched it since I was a kid because I'm afraid of the emotions I'll feel when I watch it.
Oh, and you'll feel them all.
Yeah.
This is the only one that you can watch on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. Everything about this. So it's been a long time. I'm gonna maybe bring something back.
I bet you're gonna be able to come up with the scene that I'm thinking of right now.
Oh, I guarantee.
Because I think I've talked about it on the podcast.
You probably have, but this special opens with people in full-size Muppet costumes ice skating, and they're uncomfortable with what they're doing. The guy who's Bert almost, like, takes a header a couple times. But the scene. So in this, it's all the goings on of what's going on Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. And you get all your beloved characters. The most dated part of this whole thing is the sweaters. Like, so just look past those and you're fine. But Big Bird decides that he's going to stay up all night long so he can see Santa Claus. And at one point, you see him and he's got icicles from his beak, right? Because he's so cold. But the scene, like at the very end when Santa does arrive, and they don't show him, but they show his boots going by. And
I think you just hear them.
You see the boots at one point, yeah. And it is one of the most perfect scenes in any Christmas special of all time. So good, so freaking good.
There's something about late night Christmas Eve that is still to this day feels magical in some way.
Yeah, everything slows down.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, and I always think of that scene because I remember being a kid and watching it and going, you're missing it. He's right there.
Yeah.
This is so
Wake
sad.
up, Big Bird.
Wake up, Big Bird.
On Tuesday, so the day after, on Apple TV, A Charlie Brown Christmas. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason I paired this right next to the Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. It is a special for an era that no longer exists. And you might feel nostalgic about it, about how great it was at that time. But there is something so flipping good about a Charlie Brown Christmas. They talk about the meaning of Christmas. You get the ice skating scenes. You get loo, 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 loo,
The
loo.
iconic Christmas tree.
Yeah. Right?
Maybe the most iconic Christmas tree.
It might be.
It might be the most iconic,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
Yeah. It's the crappiest
Well,
tree, the most
actually, you know what
iconic.
though? But it's also, I mean, it's also so perfect in keeping with the religious tradition, in that the Lord and Savior is born in a manger.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the trappings of wealth or of beauty, but of like these little tiny things.
It also, I think, speaks to the fact that we put Christmas on such a pedestal and like everything's got to be perfect, right? Everything's got to be exactly right. And nothing goes right for poor Charlie Brown. And that tree represents the kind of the spirit that we have, right? That like, listen, even if it's the worst Christmas tree ever, it still is pretty loved, right? On the 20th, one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, Gremlins on Max. Gremlins, which opened in the middle of the summer, was a Christmas movie about little green monsters. So we can't say much more than that.
You know what? I don't think I've ever seen any of the Gremlins movies. Are there only
What?
2?
There's 2.
I don't think I've seen. I don't think I've watched the Gremlins
Oh,
ever.
we're gonna get together and watch Gremlins.
I think we're gonna watch.
You're gonna be astounded at
Yeah.
how friggin' good it is.
I mean, I'm aware of like cultural references
Yep,
about it, you know, and the sequel, how crazy it is, and all stuff. But yeah, I don't think I've ever actually watched them.
I want you to watch it, and then it's my favorite audio commentary of all time. They do a cast like commentary afterwards that is so insightful because Steven Spielberg produces this movie, right? And through Amblin Entertainment, and Joe Dante talked about how so they would stop getting notes from Steven Spielberg. They'd hide stuff in the background for him that he'd appreciate, and then he'd forget to actually continue to watch the movie. So at one point, A Boy's Life was going to be the title, originally working title for E.T., and Watch the Skies was Close Encounters. And so at one point he runs by the movie theater and they pull back and you can see those titles are on there as he's running down. Like it's a great audio commentary. It's so good. Moving on, another Christmas newbie, Last Christmas, which stars Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones as well, is on Amazon Prime.
Oh, this one. Okay, yeah.
This is one that kind of
Mike Schultz is a big fan of Last Christmas,
Right.
I believe.
It really captivated the imaginations of a lot of people, and it's about kind of a Scrooge-like character, a woman who has no holiday in her. She's all humbug. And honestly, at one point in the movie, both my wife and I, the year that we watched it, went, "Whoa!" And there was a part of this that took like a twist that we did not see coming. And like even now, I'm starting to kind of like get a little worked up, a little emotional about it. Last Christmas, well worth your time. On Friday, the last Christmas comedy, Friday, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's on Hulu. There's not much.
Some more nipple humor in that one.
Some great nipple humor.
Great
like,
nipple humor from these Christmas films. It's a tidbit nipply out there.
'Tis a season to be merry.
Shitter's full.
Mary's my name. No shit. This movie might be the most quoted Christmas movie. Elf, a close second, but this one has got everything about it.
You
Like,
couldn't hear a dump truck drive through a nitroglycerin factory.
it's a funny squeaky sound. Don't throw me down, clock. You know, that's the voice of Betty Boop.
No shit.
Yeah, the woman who plays Aunt Bethany is the voice of Betty Boop.
No kidding.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh, that's crazy.
I mean, literally every line of that entire movie is good. Like, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, kiss his ass, kiss your ass. Like, everything that Clark does is perfect. This is one where people forget that this is a sequel, right? And they love Vacation. They love European Vacation. This is one of the rarest breeds, which is the third film in a trilogy up to that point was the best.
The best one.
The best.
Yep. Uprooting the tree instead of cutting it down.
Oh, God. Everything about it.
It's so good.
Like, why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. On the 23rd family favorite, this is one that more people should watch. I'm telling you, if you've got a family, it's on HBO Max. Arthur Christmas. It's an Aardman animated film, but it's not stop motion like Chicken Run or the Wallace and Gromit. It is a computer generated animated film. It is about Santa Claus and his family. Santa and Mrs. Claus have 2 boys, Steve and Arthur. Steve is next in line to become Santa Claus. By the way, Bill Nighy plays Grand Santa, who is like Santa's father, who used to be Santa Claus during like World War II, and he loves to bring it up. And it's time for Santa to retire. He decides not to retire, but on this particular Christmas Eve, they find out that one child's been missed. A gift in this new, brand new, technology-driven world. They've missed one kid, and Arthur can't stand for that. And so he has to go out on Christmas Eve as Christmas morning is just hours away and get this bicycle delivered. It is hilarious. The whoever wrote the dialogue for the elves is out of this world. At this point, like, they use a spaceship instead of using a sleigh and reindeer. But Arthur, to be able to get out of the North Pole, has to use the reindeer, and he gets Grand Santa to be a part of it. It is honestly so good. I made a bunch of people watch this movie one Christmas when I was hosting a bunch of friends over. And at one point I realized, like, okay, so we had a fire burning in the fireplace, and the fire had gotten down to the point of where it was just coals, right? And I said, should I stoke the fire? And everyone was like, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. Because everyone was so deeply into Arthur Christmas, and it's a great Christmas message. It is awesome, and it's a love letter to like British Christmas traditions and stuff too. I think you'll enjoy it. So let's talk about Christmas Eve, okay? So it's a double feature because it's a Sunday. We're gonna get 2 things that you're going, how have you not included these on your list so far? They're here right now: The Muppet Christmas Carol on Disney Plus and Elf on Hulu. 2 Christmas movies. You know, Muppet Christmas Carol is now 30 years old. Elf celebrating 20 years old. These are both heavy hitters that'll be around for the next 50 years. I mean, these 2 really have the potential of being the next It's a Wonderful Life and the next White Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. The things that stand the test of time and keep on going. I think A Muppet Christmas Carol is the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
That's an objective fact that's been proven by science time and again.
Over and over and over and over again. In fact, just this last year, Funko Pops released a whole line of Christmas Carol, like Muppet Christmas Carol, and I got them all. And they're great. So now I have a Michael Caine Funko Pop. I got Kermit and Miss Piggy.
You know, all the shit that I'm into, Funko Pops, I'm surprised are one of the things I just never, I never took a big bite of.
You know, the only reason I have any Funko Pops is because I love things that never seem to be licensed anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
Know?
Sure.
Like, so I get that. Elf, Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf is probably one of the greatest like Christmas performances we've ever had. Right? I mean, there's not more that you can say about that. Ed Asner making 2 appearances, by the way, on this list in the X-Files episode and here. So good.
And he's played Santa in a number of other things before, hasn't he?
I don't know.
Are you sure? Maybe. I was thinking of actors who were just born to play Santa.
Sure.
And
George
Asner's
Wendt is
on
one
there.
of those.
Miracle on 34th Street, Attenborough.
Yeah, Richard Attenborough.
Completely made for the role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gold buttons, gold thread. It's as real as me.
I think the Muppet Christmas Carol also has the best ghosts.
Oh,
of
without
all
a
of them.
doubt. And you know, it's funny because when you listen to the audio commentary on that, there were so many changes. Like originally, Gonzo was supposed to be the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, and you were just going to see his nose come through. And they said, but you know, the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come doesn't speak, and so there's nothing fun about that.
This one was so creepy. I loved it. Like it was the right moment to go tonally in that direction.
I'm also like 2 things on this that Paul Williams wrote the music for, this and then Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. That dude can write a Christmas banger like there's no tomorrow.
When you said last Christmas the character was like a Scrooge, is that meaning it has some of the DNA of Christmas Carol, or is it more like no, she just doesn't like Christmas?
Anyone who doesn't like Christmas, yeah, like so she does not like Christmas. She doesn't want anything to do with Christmas, which is ironic because she works in a 24/7 365 Christmas store. And I think like that's how iconic A Christmas Carol is, right? Scrooge is now the descriptor.
We have 4 movies on the list that are all basically within the Scroogeverse.
Oh, I like
right?
that.
We've got Scrooge, we've got It's a Wonderful Life, we've got Last Christmas, and we've got The Muppet Christmas. To me, they all share the same universe.
And you know what? I should have included that very special episode of The Real Ghostbusters where they go through the time warp and somehow they end up in Victorian England. And they capture the 3 ghosts that are supposed to haunt Scrooge, and then they go back through the time warp. And
So he never learns his lesson.
Never learns his lesson. And so everyone hates Christmas. People don't love Christmas. And so then they have to, it's a great one because any episode they have to go into the containment unit. So they have to go into the containment unit and find the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and then bring them back so they can scare the shit out of Scrooge. It's a great, and they handle it all in 15 minutes.
That's amazing.
It's a great episode. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. The one thing I couldn't fit on this is a porno that Tucker gave me called Stuffed. And it's Santa Claus themed, but it didn't really fit anywhere, so maybe I'll just put it on the 26th.